You remarkably busy. And when I'm talking to my friends and we talk about how busy people are and we talk about how being more efficient and shaving time and shaving space, I think we really underestimate what we are capable of. But also, the flip side of that is it also comes at a cost. Like when I was reading and prepping for our conversation today, there is an absolute map, a myriad of things that most people that probably live around you and work with you every day don't know you've got involved in, because you're not amazing at flying your own flag. You're
Mm.
good in some ways, but I think there's still a tiny little gremlin of imposter syndrome that sits within there. And I always think the purpose of life is to actually live it, to taste the
Mm.
experience to the utmost, to reach out and just eagerly go for things, irrespective of the fear, finding those newer and richer experiences. So, like, how do you balance being so incredibly busy and still finding time, A, for you, B, for blue, and like not pouring from an empty cup?
It's a really interesting question, and I don't think many people are going to like the answer. And the answer is there isn't balance. It's do what you love. It's do what you
Yeah.
love, and everything that I do dovetails into something else. And I have an incredible group of friends, in group of support in and around me, and professional colleagues that I work with. And so these ideas bounce in and around. And then I think, how do I progress that? How do I make this better? How do I make it better for the people who come behind me? And I believe in the greater good. And I don't do these things for accolade. I do these things because I think that they're going to make it better for the people coming behind us,
Mm.
who are going to go on and do much better things than you or I or anybody currently in the post. So
I want to push back on
that's where
one
it comes
thing.
from.
One thing first.
Yeah.
Balance. So
Okay.
I agree, but I'm going to try and reframe it and push back.
Okay.
People talk about balance, and I
Yeah.
think unconsciously when they say talk about balance, they mean 50-50.
Yes,
They
I
talk about
agree with
work-life
that.
balance, all that stuff.
Mm.
But nobody is 50-50 in anything. Everyone has
No.
their own balance, but it's literally like a cocktail. You like this cocktail. I like that cocktail. I like a
Yeah.
little bit more spice in my thing, in my curry or
Yes.
whatever. That is your flavor and that is your sort of way that you want to experience life. So for me, you could argue my balance is like 85% what would be perceived as work. Because whenever I'm starting a project with somebody else, or I'm like, you've got so many projects ongoing at the moment, when I start talking to people and they say, whenever I start hearing those whispers of, I don't really like taking work home, or I don't
Yeah.
really like doing this. And if it is actually work, like if it's something in my
Mm.
organization or your organization that you work for, okay, I can appreciate what they're saying. But you do lots of other stuff. We've got Lucy and Blue, we've got the Everest stuff, we've got the Clipper stuff, we've got the 9/11 stair climb. There's loads of stuff we're going to get into in our conversation. But when someone says that, I'm like, right, okay. Because I've had this with past partners when they see it as work and then they try and talk about balance. And I'm like, but this isn't work to me. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing in my spare time. You like
Yeah.
X, you like whatever. You like walking dogs, crafting, riding horses, watching movies, playing games, whatever it is. This is the game to me. This is
Mm.
the problem to solve about how do I make more of an impact? How do I really, we said before we started recording that thing I've got written on the wall, like, what would this look like if I wasn't thinking
Mm.
so small? And some of
Yeah.
the stuff you've done, and I'll bring it right in now because we said before we started, like, you're more than just a thing you do. And I think, I'm not saying that's about Lucy. I think we are all more than just a thing we do. But when you ask somebody, like, when you go around the circle at a course and they go, tell us about yourself. And they go, hey,
Yeah.
I'm Dave. I've been in for 22 years. I'm a
Yeah.
Borough commander. I'm da 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 da. And I'm like, no, no, no. Sorry. Who are you? And
Yeah.
then they struggle with it and they go, oh, sorry. I mean, I'm Dave. I like to walk my dogs. I said, no, no, not your hobbies. Like, who are
Who
you?
are
And if
you?
you go down that fifth, sixth route, sometimes they then start identifying as a mother or a father, or they identify, and I'm like, what are you about? And I'm
Yeah.
not sure many of us can really clearly tap into that because we actually abandoned ourselves so long ago to become an avatar that is now the firefighter. Or now, and I
Yeah.
know there's a hypocrisy in this. Oh, Pete, you do the firefighter podcast. We got to like everything about you firefighter. And I'm like, no, I'm so many other things. And depending on the environment you step into, you seem to be able to be a wonderful chameleon. And that's not to say that people don't show their true selves whenever they're in certain places. It's that there's a lot more to you than just the job that you do, isn't there?
There is. I'm not sure that was. I'm really not sure what to say to that. There is. I think most people are multifaceted. I think
Yeah.
that some people, um, firefighter is an identity. Absolutely.
Mhm.
If you're a firefighter, that is sometimes your identity. And, some of the mental health work that I do is in and around that firefighter as an identity,
Mm.
and linking into that. But actually, in order to progress things, you need to have a multifaceted approach. And actually, you did ask me about balance. So I will throw in some of the things that you just said,
Please.
which is, um, if I need, what I always do is I have something programmed in the future that I'm looking forward to. So, for example, something that will test me in another way. When I did the Clipper World Race for leg 4, um, and that was Fremantle to Newcastle in the Roaring Forties, and that was a hard stop away from whatever else I was doing,
Mhm.
removing myself from things so that I can then focus on something else. So physicality, for example, instead of using your brain so much. And that was quite nice because I was a crew member rather than actually in charge, and not
Yeah.
having to make decisions sometimes when you're in those positions is really useful. So um, that 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 kind of is, and I think people don't have to be one thing. You can be many things. And as you
Mm.
said, you can be a mother, a father, a carer, a firefighter, an academic. You can
Mm.
be, someone's counselor. You can be all of these things. You don't have to be one thing. I think that it's really important because then you're more rounded, and then you have a more diversity of thought, which is really important in the fire service, to have that diversity and bring that in. So um, I it I am who I am. I am different. I've always said that I'm a different way forward in the fire service, and there are people
Mm.
out there like me who do exactly the same. You're one of them. I can think of a few other people that would be too embarrassed if I named them on here, but I think that's really important because actually you pick up little bits and pieces from every bit of your journey,
Mhm.
and everything that you do. So yeah, that's not very eloquently put, but
It's incredibly eloquently put, but I wanted to, like, go deeper on that because I remember, I had a previous guest. Oh, lady's name's gonna escape me. Oh, I apologize. And,
that's okay.
she was saying how your difference doesn't make a
To every
difference.
person. Oh, your difference doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
And give me a second to unfold that because I want to do
Okay.
justice to
Yeah.
how she said it was Lorraine. It was Lorraine. Oh, my mind was in two places trying to remember. Lorraine.
Yeah.
Um, because people have a wonderful difference, and their difference can make a difference. It has the
Mhm.
potential to make an incredible difference if they embrace and step into their difference.
Yeah.
But if they allow themselves to be trimmed, pushed through the sausage machine, squashed, refined,
Mm,
trained, standardized,
mm.
reprogrammed,
Institutionalized.
institutionalized, whatever
Yeah.
these words we want to
Yeah.
throw in there, then their difference unfortunately may not make the difference that it could have because they think they needed to change themselves to fit
Mm.
into these things, because often being the exception, being different, I always used to say, like, and sometimes I still feel it very much myself, like the UK Fire Service says be yourself. No, not like that. Yeah. And
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
yes, if you
It
are right on the fringes of, racism, sexism, all this sort, yeah, definitely. If that's you, actually, we would like you to be yourself so we can identify you and get rid of you. But
oh.
if you have just a different idea, well, we do, if people are having those values that don't align from the wider
Yes.
context of society, we 100% want to
100%.
get rid of you. But
Yeah.
people that have a difference of thought have, because the idea is we bring someone in that's had a different childhood, that's had a different cultural experience, that was raised differently, that has a different societal context. They have a tremendous different lens to us to look at the world, and they will see challenges differently. They will see solutions differently. They
Absolutely.
will have considerate. It's that whole Yohari's window, unknown unknown.
Mhm.
You're going to see this
Mhm.
whole world from a different perspective because I have not lived your life.
Mm.
But if we suppress that and we try and clip and cut these things off people, then we don't get someone that goes and does clipper races on their time off. We don't get people that, step out and really embrace, the Lucy and Blue, the well-being, the mental health side of it. And those are the things that I suppose encourage other people to step forward as well. It's like the women in the fire service. You've got to see it to be
Yes.
it. We
Absolutely
need
that.
bold people to step forward and go, it's safe. It's safe to
Yeah.
go and do different. I mean, take us to the Everest climb, because that was an interesting one that I read when I was going through some of the bio stuff, and it reminds me of Who was I forget his name, one of the first ever climbers, and he says,
Or
we
Mallory,
climb
maybe.
I'm not sure if it was Mallory, but he was like, we climb the mountain not to discover the top, but to discover ourselves. Do you know what I mean? It is not the
Okay.
mountain that we want to conquer, but ourselves. And
Yeah.
it's almost that element of the journey versus the destination. You know, it's not the
Yes.
mountain we conquer, it's us. And like
Yes.
you seem to keep pushing yourself into really difficult challenges. And what have you discovered about yourself when that forces the layers of the onion back? I mean, the boat of the Clipper itself was called the Resilience. You know, like
Oh,
what does
perseverance. It was
perseverance? I
perseverance. Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay.
what does it?
Aptly named.
What does it make of you when you because you know, going through adverse things is very character revealing, isn't it?
It is. So there's a lot there to unpack
I
from
told
what
you
you
I'd ask
said.
7 questions in once. I'm terrible.
Yeah. So let's start with perseverance. So perseverance was aptly named. I did a year's worth of training and went on that boat. I do difficult things because I enjoy that, firstly, but also difficult things helps with your resilience. So putting yourself in uncomfortable positions all the time allows you to grow, and there's something called traumatic growth. I'm not suggesting that everyone does this, by the way. This is just something that drives me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy learning about myself, and that self-awareness allows you to put yourself in positions where other people may not, and you know that's how you change the perceptions. That's how you change things. That's how you be the difference. That's how you allow people to go, okay, see it, be it, believe it. And that's really important for me. So um I did Everest Base Camp in 2017. That was another thing, which actually it wasn't my idea. It was sort of like, do you want to go? And I was like, why not? What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah,
Right. So
absolutely.
I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. I went back to Nepal later on and did some water rescue with a great friend of mine, Tom Hales, teaching the Forces Gurkhas in the Himalaya, which was incredible. Um, and then that links into John Atkinson and the amazing work that he's doing in Fire Aid and the Everest Fire Service that's set up. And obviously, I'm on the Fire Aid steering committee, so that links in there. And you're right. I have got a very diverse portfolio of things that I do, but I enjoy all of those things, and they all link into the one common thing, which is being a firefighter. And actually, to be honest, I never thought I was going to be a firefighter. That's not where I came from. And I recently went to the ASFA conference, which was held at Heathrow, which was incredible. And what I realized was actually a lot of people in the minority in the fire service have got the same story. They didn't think that the fire service was a place for them. I joined late. I joined at 29. And it was a friend who said to me, hey, you know what, Lucy, I think you'd be really good in the fire service. I think you should be a firefighter. And I was like, no. I went to uni. I started a law degree. I came out, had my own company. The crash happened. Things went a bit south, and here I am. I came in as non-operational. I changed over to a most horrific program called multi-tier entry, which is the most hated program in the country. 3
Great.
years to hit, yeah, 3 years to hit station commander competent. Otherwise, you got sacked at any point.
Wow.
It's never been repeated since. There was 4 of us. I was the only woman. And, I was lucky. I had some support internally from some friends that I'd already made. And, I think these journeys are really different. But what I take from all of that is if you do difficult things, your resilience builds. You can make that positive difference. And not everybody is made for that. Some of us, that is why we're here. That is why
Mm,
we're here. And you keep, every time you fall over, you go, okay, I'm going to get back up. I'm going to try a different route. And that's really important. Different doors open, different friendships, but keep going, be relentless, surround yourself with those relentless humans who will pick you up and help you along that way. And I wouldn't be here today without those conversations, those mentorships, Lucy, don't worry about that. That's how the fire service is.
mhm,
Get to a place where you can make a positive difference. You're destined for that. That conversation, those people are the help that I needed. And hopefully now I'm providing some of that back, because it's what it's always
mm,
about, paving
mm,
the way for other people to come and do incredible
mm,
things. And whether that's academic or practitioner. And what I've noticed recently with some of the work that I'm doing academically is that practitioners, so us firefighters out on the ground doing the do, anecdotally know what we need to do to move it forward, but that's not translating into the academic world. So how do I get involved? All right, I'll go and do my master's.
I
Then I
love
can
it.
get involved.
Yeah.
Then I've got a buy-in, and now I'm involved with Aston University with Dr. Kamal and Luke, doing disaster risk reduction in Taiwan and places like that, and trying to learn those lessons so that we can do that internationally. And then not only that, with the University of East London with Dr. Lee Brown, and looking at fitness standards, physiology, and what that absolutely looks like in terms of women and retention and recruitment and their journey and their physiological states throughout their um, employment. So, you know, all of those have a massive impact. And if we want to have a future fire service that's fit and ready and able, and more diverse, then the only way to do it is get involved. And sometimes that means you've got no balance. And sometimes that means you go, do you know what? I'm going away in 6 months. I'm going to take a nice 3-week break to the Arctic and I'm going to look at whales and I'm just going to enjoy that. And then when I come back, I'll be refreshed and ready to go. I am a relentless human, unfortunately. And luckily, I've got some friends who are like that and support that. So know that if I go missing for 2 weeks and I'm not going down to the local bar or whatever it may
Yeah.
be that they're doing, that they do that. But we plan those events in the future so that I've got those hard stops, you know?
You are so like me. Like
Yeah, I
I
think
had to
we are. We're
discipline
very
myself
similar.
there. People don't know I have a
Yeah.
little pad that I hold next to me here that I write
Yeah.
down notes because it stops me interrupting. Because I'm
Okay.
so I like verbally want to high five you as you're going through, but I know all that is me interrupting you because there's so many little threads I want to pull on from things that we were discussing there. The first one and one of the
Hmm.
bigger ones for me being this element of academia and how
Yeah.
working academics are some of the best guests I love speaking to because you're so right. Like we finger on the pulse, like a visceral feeling towards. I think this is the problem. Like we all feel like we're pointing at the thing, but we can't name it. And
Yeah.
academia do a wonderful way of pulling together data and putting real rigor behind what we viscerally feel. Do you know what I mean? And like we've done stuff with Rowena Hill, Dr. Rowena Hill, sorry,
Yeah.
from ASA and working with the academics for the National Fire Chiefs Council. And we need to invite more academics into our organizations and stop being so siloed and trying to fumble our way. This is my words, not yours. Fumble our way sometimes towards the answer that we know is true. But when we're trying
Mm.
to justify that to senior leadership, it needs to have that. It has to have a business case. It has to have academic rigor behind it. It has to. You have to be able to point at the receipts and say, no, this is definitely the thing. But then you also mentioned something around having great people invest their time in you because sometimes people climb the ladder and then don't reach back down and pull
That's
others up.
true.
Sometimes they
Yeah.
actually pull the rope ladder back up
They do.
and then
Yeah.
and you go, well, how did you get there? How did you rise to such a
It's a
level without some?
miracle.
It's a miracle. And then they relate themselves as some utopian thing that never had a
No,
setback and never had a thing. And I'm like, well,
no.
that's not relatable. Like, and sometimes we have this, again, my words, not yours, with senior leadership, when because they're now stuck in a professional prison, they have to communicate, as they should to an extent, as a professional in line with values and da 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 da. But that doesn't humanize us.
Yeah.
And it perpetuates this belief that you're not like me, we're different, you don't get me, life is hard, life sucks, and all these elements. But the one question I actually want to ask you about
Yeah.
is women in the fire service
Yes.
and two things to it. So the fact that all of us, men and women, and whatever your chosen pronoun is, having to work for a lot longer because we do
Yes.
have a birth rate decline issue in the UK and we have a
Hmm.
pension issue. So for people
Hmm.
that wonder like where the hell is he going with this, we're having less children than we ever used to have
Yep.
for various reasons, economical challenges, women's independence, which was a great thing, but I always say there's no solutions, only trade-offs. So women have become more independent. They've rediscovered great career opportunities. And we are all, men and women, choosing to have children later, or maybe
Yeah.
choosing to have children not at all, which is absolutely fine. But there is a trade-off to it, which means in 30 years' time, there's going to be less people in the workforce. And people go, how do we know that? And I go, well, you can definitely know what the upper limit is because I can tell you exactly how many 40-year-olds maximum there will be in 30 years because they're all 10-year-olds now. We can't make any more 10-year-olds. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? People, we all know a lot of
Yeah.
people with no kids or one kid or that. If
Yeah.
you and I were a couple, we need to have a minimum of 2 kids just to keep, we actually need to
Yeah.
have about 2.3 to keep population normal. So anyway, That's going to decline a little bit. So we're all going to have to work a little bit longer to keep putting money into the economy. And how that
Mm,
manifests, to bring us back to our sector, is that the pensions are going to do more pension contributions, and we're going to have to work longer,
mm,
which is just a thing. But then we go, well, how does that affect all of us? Because it's not the same. Do you know what I mean? And men and women
absolutely that.
age differently. Our hormonal
Absolutely
balances
that.
go
Yeah,
differently.
menopause,
Exactly. So we can't just
fertility.
keep pushing that horizon pension retirement backwards without
Yeah.
really looking at if we are even setting people up for success. So I know you're very early into this research and stuff like that, but as a woman that's been in the sector for quite some time now, you've done a lot of traveling. Like, how do you feel we're sort of approaching that problem at the minute? Are we speaking loudly enough about it? Are we pouring enough resource into academia? Because this will be upon people already. There will be men and women in the final 5 stages of their career thinking,
Mm,
I don't know if I can keep doing this. I also don't know
mhm,
if I can retire.
mhm.
And what would you say to people in that position now? And where do you think we are in the level of focus that we're giving it?
I think it's a really difficult question to even
Hmm.
begin to answer. But I do think we don't leverage our academic friends quite as much. And actually, lots of people go into their masters, PhDs without a subject that they want to cover. And actually, I think that conversation between the fire sector and academia
Hmm.
means that we can put forward what we want looking at, and they've got all the resources, the time, the energy, and also they're not biased. So it's
Hmm.
not a firefighter doing the study actually, because
Yeah.
we've got our own biases, and it's really important that it's unbiased. And then once that's done, we've got some significant academic research that we can put forward to the government and to the NSCC, and they can lobby that. And I think that's a route. So then you've got a two-pronged attack. And actually, throughout my life, I've realized that multiple attacks on the same thing is the best way forward. It's
Hmm.
the best game plan. So I think that's really important. And actually, some of the studies that I'm looking at with the counterparts, not only just in the UK, we're looking at America because they work very differently, and they've got less women, Australia, New Zealand, and we've got some people in Europe as well. We've literally just set it up.
Hmm.
Is also looking at, and I know Dr. Anna Steck is really prevalent in this area, but contaminants and relating to firefighters' fertility, early
Yeah.
menopause, early, and no, anecdotally, in my friend group, perimenopause and menopause is much earlier in female firefighters, anecdotally, but we're only a very tiny minority. So when you look at carcinogens and contaminants within the sector, of course, we're going to have lots more data on men because there's more men. There's only 8% nationally women in the fire service across the 35,000 odd that are in service. So we do need to specify. We're at the beginning of that. We're really interested in collecting that data and looking at that in a worldwide place, because in America they work differently, and that's against whole time, on call, and volunteer firefighters. So I am really excited to do that. So maybe when we've got some real good ones, we can do another podcast and I can just give you
Thousand
all the
percent.
information on that with some of my really amazing colleagues, and Dr. Lee Brown at University of East London. He would love to come. He's the one.
I'd
He's the
love to have
catalyst
Leon.
here.
Love
Yeah.
to. But I think as well, just to expand on that and say that, I want to speak to colleagues in Canada, and when they do their annual physicals and stuff like the whole watch is taken off. They do
Mm,
blood tests. They
mm.
do cardiovascular. I don't think they have an MRI, but they have something to that effect. But the blood testing is what I'm really interested in, because I think that's where the rising tide would raise all the ships. Because yes, we need more data for women, but actually we do need more data for men as well.
We
And if
do,
we
absolutely. All
made it net,
firefighters.
absolutely, because yes, the carcinogen element, but me as well for the hormonal balances, because
Yes.
men go through andropause a little bit
Yes.
later, sorry, a little bit slower than women. So women, and I'm going to fumble my way through this, so please interrupt and
That's all
correct
right.
where women can go into perimenopause as early as their 20s. Typically, it's around mid 30s, 40s. For
Yeah.
some, it's a little bit later. And when it does happen, it will happen very quickly, and their estrogen will drop off a cliff, and they will notice lots of changes in their body, their mood, how they carry weight, their confidence, a
Yeah.
variety of challenges. For men, it happens a much slower, but over a much longer process. 27, 28 for a lot of men, definitely into their 30s. It drops every year on year. Their testosterone and estrogen, everything just starts to slowly go away. And the problem with that one for me is it just looks like aging. So we don't
Yeah.
really look at it the same. When women go through a very quick change in a shorter period of time, we're much more, as a society, we're much more open to. I mean, how long has HRT been around for women?
Oh,
30 years at least,
quite a
something like that. A
while.
very, very long
I
time. We're
think
starting to bring
access to
in,
it's different though.
yes,
Accessing it is
access is
hard.
definitely for hormone
Mm.
replacement therapy for men. It's still very, um, it has a lot more
New.
sort of heavier judgment with it. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of elements of it that people are much more reticent about. It's not as publicly accepted. So I think just for all firefighters, I would love. There has been some services, hasn't there, that have started doing blood testing for cancer,
I think so.
specifically for
Yeah.
cancer. I'm going to fail to remember them in a minute. I might try and Google them in a second, but I want to recognize them for the ones that are already sort of stepping ahead. I appreciate there's a cost in it, but also there's already a hidden cost. So with the
Yes, there
mental health
is.
challenges that we're going through with
Yep.
services, people choosing early retirement, or
Yeah.
even just those showing up every day in pain, whether that's behavioral pain, whether it's physical pain, whether it's the rub from the organizational, it's that sort of organizational trauma that they're picking up because they're not being understood. There's not relevant adaptations being put in place for them. We're already paying that cost. And when
We
someone
are.
then goes off sick, when someone goes on to modified duties, that's already a cost. We're just reactive to it rather than proactive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We always seem to have
Absolutely.
time. We don't have time to do it well once, but we seem to have time to do it three times. Do you know what I mean?
I
We
see
can
what you
try and
mean.
fix it
Yeah.
three or four times, but
Yeah.
we almost want to plant that line in the sand. And I think you and all of your colleagues, and Rowena and others, really are starting to draw more attention to it. Because I love what you said about how effectively, to me, what I heard was this hasn't been done before. Some people say that, or they say, "Oh no, we did this 10 years ago and it didn't
Mm,
work." And I'm like,
mm.
"Yeah, but that was a whole different time. Like society was a
Yes.
different point. You and I
Absolutely.
weren't in these positions. Lucy wasn't
Yeah.
doing that. This person wasn't doing that." So when people go, "Oh, we've tried that before, it didn't work," I'm like, that's not an excuse to never try it again because everything's changed.
Exactly. Things
Everything's
change.
changed.
People change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's almost like a team. Like if you try to attack once but half the team weren't paying attention or they were just knackered,
Mhm.
you're like, well, you
Yep.
all need to move in the same direction at the same time. And there might be enough momentum there to start pushing this boulder. But if one strange individual, I see it a lot with tactical firefighting and fire behavior, there's been many individuals who have tried and done remarkable progress in the past 20 years, but they've kind of done it in isolation. And there seems to
Yes.
be a growing tide of people now coming together through the connectivity of online and everything like that are giving that a real big shove now. And I see that with the wellbeing work as well. And I think this is a good time to maybe bring in the work that you've done with Blue, because I know you've done a
Yes.
tremendous amount of work around mental well-being. And I love the element that you brought in around how Blue is an incredible way for people to be able to dissipate the sort of tenseness that comes with talking around well-being. So give us a
Yeah.
little bit of background around why you seem to be so passionate about this and then how Blue came to be part of your life.
Okay. It's a bit of a convoluted story, just like most of my life, to be fair. In 2004, I was diagnosed with PTSD from an accident, and so I have firsthand experience of this sort of stuff. And I got my first dog, Lucky, and he saved my life, and I'm not scared to say that. So I always knew at some point I needed to have a trauma and wellbeing dog. I am a CHIM practitioner and a CHIM manager, and I did the critical debriefing for all the London ISAR when they came back from Turkey, Malawi, and Morocco. So again, it's really important for me to give back where and when I can, and help people realize that actually some of the things that they're feeling are normal, and at when and when to signpost to get help. So, as you said earlier, balance is difficult. How do
Hmm.
I have a dog and do these things and complement everything? So Blue was handpicked for his friendliness. I'm half Australian. He's an Australian Shepherd, so that was a link to my heritage. And he started being trained very early. So he became a pup in training for Shirley Robinson's program within London, which is linked to the OK9 um,
Hmm.
brand, which is police-led initiative. And he acts as you quite rightly said, like a buffer and a bridge. So if I
Hmm.
came into your fire station, if I just imagine I'm in uniform as well, that's a barrier in itself. And I say, "Oh, Pete, tell me about your mental health and this terrible incident you just had and all that. You exactly that. You'd be like,
Yeah.
who are
No,
you? Are
I'm
you
all
going to
right. I
take me off
mean,
the
like,
run?
I've got to go and do
Yeah,
some checks. So,
you're
like, you
you're
know.
an officer. You're going to take me off the run. Because that's historically what happened. You're either
Yeah.
fit or you're not fit. There is a massive grey part where firefighters
Mm,
have an identity crisis when they have a mental health episode of whatever that looks like, and that can
mhm,
be as a result of the jobs that they're on or personal life, usually a
mm,
combination,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Because everything in life is a combination. It's not
Nothing
just
lives in
one thing.
isolation. People say, "Oh, I leave home at
Exactly.
home." No, you don't.
Yeah, you
It's
don't, you
impossible.
can't, it's impossible. We are the sum of our own pieces, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, you can build resilience. Yes, you can do all the right things, but yes, it can still get you. And we are more likely as emergency responders to come across things that are going to affect us in that respect, whether it's just a one off or a cumulative effect. So,
Mhm,
Blue is an incredible buffer and bridge. So, I bring
mm,
him in. People ask me about him. He's got these beautiful blue eyes. Um, and people talk to me all of the time. What's your breed
mhm,
dog? He's so soft. What's his name? And then I
mm.
say, oh, he can do some tricks. Do you want to see the tricks? And then I've got an in.
It's
And then,
conversational lubricant, isn't it? Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's a nice term. Yeah. And you're just sort of like, okay, so what does he do? Well, actually, he comes with me to, talk about mental health and, signpost people and see how they're getting on. And, I don't have all the answers, and I'm really honest about that. And I think we touched on it earlier with senior leadership and being in isolation. I
Mm,
don't have all the answers. I've failed multiple times. The, you just have to keep getting back up. And as
mm.
one of my favorite movies, Finding Nemo, you just have to keep swimming.
Just keep
It doesn't
swimming,
have to be
baby.
fast. Just have
Yeah.
slowly moving forward and
Uh,
doing things differently. What's the definition of madness? Doing the same thing and
mm,
expecting a different result every
mhm,
day. So, you know, he he is my love. He is
mm,
my true love, my little boy, because of all the joy that he brings. And in turn, that brings me happiness to be able to
mm.
help. So, when you give your life for service, that kind of stuff makes you tick, doesn't it? And
Yeah. Is there a
as you
thing
know,
here
he's,
about like talking sideways? Because like, you know, I always think about like dating as one example. Like
okay.
when I was dating, my favorite
Yeah.
way to go on a date would be like we'd just go for a walk together. Either take one of my dogs and then we'd
Yes.
like go for a walk in the park, have a coffee, get to know each other. It's a limited time. We're going to go to the coffee shop and back, and then back to the car park, say goodbye. So they know it's going to end because if I just
Yep.
talk too much, well, it's not head on. We're not setting
Yes.
in a restaurant going, so tell me about
It's
yourself.
very
You know,
important.
it's that's very intimidating. That bit is, you know what I mean? Where we're doing it
Yeah.
sideways, and I think whilst people might not like the analogy of dating, when we put
Car
it into
journeys.
your car journey, perfect, much better
Yeah.
analogy. When we put it in the framework of our organizations, because we're dealing with very sensitive things, we unconsciously slip into a seniority perspective because of
Mm.
GDPR and safety and all this sort of jazz. And somebody needs to manage this. We've got a responsibility for it. But then it doesn't become sideways. It becomes parent-child relationship
Yes,
sometimes.
that's
It
true.
becomes down
Yes.
up. Um,
And
and
rescuer,
yeah, and rescue and all of
complex,
these
yeah.
elements. And I'm like, there's a lot to be said for that sideways peer, I'm not above you, not below you, beside you element to well-being that I think is really, really crucial. And you are starting to see it move towards that a little bit from the organizations that I engage with. But how do you balance that? Because also I would love to bring into that senior leadership is remarkably lonely. You know, it's a very
Yeah,
lonely space. You can't talk to
yeah,
certain people about most of your work. Do you know what
yeah.
I mean? And if you are struggling with something yourself, I wonder if people from, borough commander, station commander, area commander upwards are some of the most vulnerable. You know, as much as a lot of people might hate them and think that, oh, they've gone for promotion, they're not a nice person. I'm like, that's probably a very lonely existence. I wonder
Yes.
with GDPR in place and all that jazz, without naming names, if you could speak to that a little bit around maybe people that you've worked with at different levels and how, everybody needs that support. It's not
I
just everybody at the tip of the sword, the one that's cutting the body down. That person needs it, but so does everybody else as well.
I absolutely agree, and you couldn't have said it better. So probably I just wanted to give a shout out to Dean Corney, who's in London, who's doing
Mhm.
fantastic work
I
with
know,
Walk
team.
and Talk. He's
I had him on
brilliant.
before. We're gonna have him on again,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, he's
he's
great.
excellent, and he's really pushing that initiative. And it is side on side, you're more
Mhm.
likely to tell someone something rather than me looking into your eyes like that.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult for for everybody.
Mhm.
And if you think about the setup in a counselling situation, often that is the case. So,
Mhm.
again, the firefighters charity is doing some brilliant work with that as well. When you get to a station commander and above, you're often on your own. You're not in
Mm.
a watch, so people don't necessarily know you and won't necessarily approach you. So it is more difficult, absolutely. And I have had firsthand experience of debriefing and supporting mental health with people more senior. And what often people miss is coping mechanisms. So I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Someone's coping mechanism may be being at work, because when they're at work, they're purposeful. And they yeah, and
I'm
they have an
terrible.
identity. So it also may be, and and this may feed into some of the earlier things. A coping mechanism may be being busy, because whilst you're being busy doing things and achieving things,
Mm.
then
I
you're
haven't got
not
time for a pity
necessarily.
party, Lucy. I
Yeah,
haven't got time for
exactly.
a bit.
You're
I'm
not
busy.
thinking about
Any
that.
idea how
You're
much
not
I've got
navel
going on?
gazing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not looking at all the things of why. You're just going, I'll do that again. I'll try that differently. I'll move that forward.
Yeah.
So if you take that into, let's couple this with 90 odd percent men in the fire service. So there's a
Mhm.
stigma there in the first instance, because they're meant to be the strong people. We know that more men are successful in committing suicide, which is
Mhm.
horrific, right?
Yep. Yeah.
More so than heart attacks.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're difficult to reach. Then you add in that they're a firefighter or an emergency services worker. So actually, they deal with a lot more trauma, and also their home life suffers as a result of the job that they do, because they're not
Mhm.
available for
Yeah.
birthdays, Christmas,
Yeah.
and anniversaries, dinners. Then you couple that with the fact that they might be in a senior role, and the next step will be, well, if you're not good enough to be at work, you're either going light duties or you're going
Mhm.
sick.
You can't
And then
hack
they
it, can
lose
you?
their identity.
Yeah.
So if they're not doing very good at home and then they lack structure, then that's sort of a downward path. And then, of course, that relates to physicality. So if you don't feel good enough, you're not going to eat properly, you're not going to sleep, you're not going to go to the gym, and then it literally perpetuates. So
Yeah.
some of the work that I've been doing is basically saying, look, there's a different way. So if this person is saying they need to be at work and need to be doing something meaningful, let's give that to them and let's just help them do that. So
Mhm.
if they're saying, oh no, I've got this problem at home and I need to be at work. And we've all been there, where we throw yourself into work because you're having a
Yep.
pretty horrible time, and it gives you some purpose and actually something nice back, you
Mhm.
know? Because
Yeah.
if you help someone at work, then you
You feel
go,
valued.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm actually valued. Yeah, because that person at
Yeah.
that point needed you.
I'm worth being
Um,
here. Actually, the world wouldn't be better
yeah,
off without me because I have a purpose. I have a
exactly.
meaning. Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes historically, what's happened is we've come down and gone, well, you've got PTSD. You're not your diagnosis. That's another thing that I will say. You are not your
Mm.
diagnosis. A diagnosis, much like anything, is a point where you go, okay, I now know what these problems are, and now I can look at things to help myself. So
Mhm.
I know that I might feel down on a given day, or when this happens, or if I'm in this experience. So what I'm going to do is build some resilience in those areas so that I can move that forward. And that's really important, because a lot of times people get diagnosis with things, and that a lot of people in the fire service have neurodiverse uh
Neurodivergence. Yeah.
yeah, they have that diagnosis later in life,
Oh yeah.
and then that
I didn't
throws
get the
them.
ADHD until I was about 31. I knew I was a
Yeah,
recovering addict. Well, I knew I was an addict probably 19 unconsciously, and then went
yeah,
through Narcotics Anonymous when I was about 21.
yeah,
But like someone related it to me, they said like it's just a power source you can't switch off. So you just need to make sure you're
yeah.
pointing it in productive directions.
That's
Otherwise, those wolves will turn around and start eating you. So you need to give them something else
absolutely.
to chase, and that's okay. It's
Exactly.
just who you are. That's not a
Exactly.
bad thing. That can be remarkably useful.
I was gonna say it's superpower, actually,
Yeah.
because a lot of the time, once you've harnessed it, you
Hmm.
can go on and achieve loads of stuff. It's when you don't know what it is. So if you don't know what it is, you can't do anything about it. And once I bet it was a relief for you when you got your diagnosis. I bet you were
Hmm.
like, "Ah, now I know I can do something." And actually, it's a superpower. Absolutely. ADHD is a superpower, especially in
But
the
don't
fire
don't
service.
don't
My
wave it like
God.
an excuse is what some people do. Like I'm
Absolutely.
like, it doesn't entitle me to be rude. It doesn't entitle me to pretend to be oblivious to, the chain of command. No, oh well, I'm actually, I'm ADHD and recovering addict. Okay, but that was really offensive, Pete. Okay, so that
Yeah,
doesn't give you this
yeah,
blank slate to just say what you want, carte blanche. But as long as you're not being told that it's wrong, and as long as you're not trying to suppress it, if you try and suppress it, it will pop up. I always
it's
say it's like trying to
worse.
push a beach ball underwater. It's going to pop up somewhere and hurt somebody else or hurt yourself and get everybody wet. You need to be able to embrace it and find ways and coping mechanisms, not necessarily, but more reasonable adjustments to it. And we always unconsciously do reasonable adjustments in our own life anyway.
We do.
Like
Yeah,
I just start to move away from people with certain behaviors or certain attitudes or that get engaged in
absolutely
certain
that.
substances. And that's absolutely fine because also you can't set yourself on fire just to keep everybody warm. You can't save everybody else.
That's
And you
true.
sometimes can do that when you go through a life chapter or a transformation. You come out and we have this hero complex where we want to run around and try and help everybody else. And if it's a loved one or if it's a colleague and you have either a desire or an obligation to help them, then definitely do so. But recognize that they may not be ready or they may not want to come with you on this next chapter. They may be happy where they are,
Yes.
and you can't save everybody, you know?
No, that's very true and really good advice. They need to want to. So
Mm,
you can set it all up for them and say, here for the taking. But if they don't want it, they don't want it.
mm.
So yeah, really good advice. And just keep going. If you're in this, if you're listening and you're going through something like that, you can come out the other side. Absolutely. Like, and do great things.
I wanted to change gears into
Yes.
UKRO a little bit because
Yes.
you seem to have found a real passion for that quite early on in your career. I know you're still active in the space, even though you've got a lot of other bits and bobs going on. But talk to me a little bit around UKR. Who's Lara as a starter for a kickoff? Because she seems like an incredible individual as well.
Human. Yes, she
And
is.
tell us, because some people, like I find this, because you have your own unconscious bias, well, like I walk around services talking about things like UKRO or the National BA Challenge or whatever it might be in the fire service. And actually, you forget a lot of people don't know anything about these. So let's make no assumption of the listener and just like really break down what it is when you first came across it, some of your experiences in it, and what you're doing with it now.
Okay. It's a big question. So United Kingdom Rescue Organisation is probably my happiest place that I've ever operated
Wow.
continuously. Yeah, it's what I would call technical rescue excellence.
Hmm.
And I started as a volunteer in 2010 with the London Fire Brigade, and I was hooked. We did a trauma and extrication challenge at what was the old STC, our training venue, and then I was like, please, can I compete? So Lara and I were an all-female team, and we started competing together in 2012. And much to everyone's surprise, we competed in trauma, and we won the first regional in West Midge, which was incredible. Then we went on to win the nationals at Liverpool, and then we went on to win the World Championship in Clearwater, something that has never been done before or
Yeah.
after. It was the first UK team to ever win a world championship. Um, and yeah, she's now retired from service, but we very much in contact, and she's a good friend. She lives down in Exmouth, retired finally into Devon and Somerset. And we look back now and still can't believe it because no one's managed to replicate that success. Even though I
I would
tried
just
with my
say
own
as well,
team.
because I know you're not going to keep unfolding it. Literally, you're the only people, male or female, anywhere,
Yeah, male or female.
to have ever replicated that.
Yeah,
Um,
no
which
one's
is
done it
mind blowing.
since. No one did it
What does something
before.
like that involve? What
Uh,
is the trauma? Because people obviously understand what first aid trauma and all that jazz is, but like, what would a trauma challenge in UKRO look like? Like, if you could just zoom us into what one of the challenges was.
Okay, so the nationals and world challenges are always a step up. So they set a scenario. It's 9 minutes of mayhem, like complete and utter trauma. So it might be from a fire or a bomb blast. There's usually lots of blood everywhere.
Hmm.
Serious trauma requiring tourniquets and use. So you're basically going to stabilize that 1, 2, 3, 4
Hmm.
casualties in that period. Might be an RTC, something like that, and then you do a 1 minute handover to some assessors. Which, by the way, I progressed to be an assessor, which was fantastic. I'm no longer doing that, but I that was a part of the journey,
Mm,
and it was whistle stop. So you come
mm.
in, there's two of you. You basically usually say one's going to be the lead that will go in and do a bit, is a
And this
scene
was
set and
pre
all that.
kind of 10-second triage for people that
Oh
don't know. So
yeah,
this was
and I and you
What,
know
what,
that
what did it look like then, triage in? Because you have to really quickly, if we had to do an elevator pitch of how to triage a situation like that, it requires an incredible amount of focus and discipline, doesn't it?
it does. And you do the most for the most. And 10-second triage again, a fantastic thing. And I know I won Project as award for implementing that in
Hmm.
London. I
Yeah.
you know you led me down that
I
path.
know.
See,
Hey, it's not my first time. Come
see.
on.
So triage before was very different. It was go to the person who's not making very much noise and start doing CPR or whatever it may be, because actually they're in the most amount of need. But actually,
Mhm,
when you've got limited resources, you can't actually do that. So you're trying to do the most for the
mhm,
most. So you split your team, you use bystanders, and it's all very fluid, very quick, rapid thought processing, and
mm.
then
Talk
handing
to me
that
about that
over.
bystanders bit for a second, because I forget who it was that I was talking about, but they were talking about zero responders and
Hmm.
saying about how, and this is a total hard left turn, so excuse me, we'll just explore this
That's
rabbit hole for a
okay.
second, but like members of society.
Yes.
So across the world, members of society have different expectations placed upon them by the government, by society, by their emergency services. We have an ever expanding buffet of needs that society is struggling with. The
Hmm.
emergency services collectively, NHS, police, mountain rescue, fire and rescue service, everybody. We have limited resources, limited time to train, shrinking budgets. I think a lot about how we can continue to upskill society, make them more autonomous, make them more capable of looking after themselves, not because we don't want to, but
Yeah.
because it's safe, it's net positive for them. And we have
Yeah.
seen expansions from, defibs up to trauma kits that are publicly accessible now. But when we deploy to a scene, I think there can still be a real reluctance to utilize bystanders. We tend to just like put the tape up, say, get back, everyone stand behind there.
Yeah.
We don't want to hurt you, don't want you to get hurt. Like if I involve you, it's really risky. I don't even know you. Like, but when it really comes to the tip of the sword and resources are short to come by in the situations that you've had in challenges, how does that relate to the real world and kind of gently invite us into how we could include bystanders? What's safe to ask people to do? And I know I'm pushing you. We're not talking about what's done in policy or what people do in their organizations, but in the real world. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So this is going to be a long answer.
Okay.
So in the real world, if you're walking down the street and you're not in uniform and you come across someone who needs some help, you are going to ask anybody who is available for help. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the society we live in, they might just film it. They might not do anything. But actually, even
Yeah.
just calling 999 would be helpful at this point. So
Yeah.
that's the first bit. If you are in uniform and you declare a scene, that's
Hmm.
very difficult to then involve people because you don't necessarily know what their qualifications are. However, there may be someone who presents to you who's a doctor who can qualify that, and you might be able to use them in certain given circumstances. And there are workarounds with that.
Hmm.
And then the third part of the answer really is the Civil Contingencies Act says that we need to get involved in the voluntary sector. So voluntary sector could be seen as bystanders. So actually we can take them past the hazard zone and put them in a cold zone working environment where they can do that sort of stuff. So
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a three-pronged there's no right answer to all of this, and I think the
Hmm.
incident commanders need to make a decision on at the time. So obviously I'm working in London Fire Brigade. We've got a huge amount of resources that will get there very quickly with all
Yeah.
emergency services. So it's very different to if you're on call, if you were
Very
working in, say,
different picture across
Gloucestershire.
the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. And so actually you may know that there's a doctor at the end of the road, or you may know that there's a mechanic that can help you move this car, or you may
Hmm.
know. So actually that's a very different environment, and it requires lateral thinking and problem solving. And coming back to
Hmm.
that neurodiversity within the fire service, that's a superpower, because you're like, hang a
Hmm.
minute, why don't we use that lift engineer, to do that thing? And yes, there's operational discretion and there's all sorts of
Hmm.
ways of working around it, as long as we're doing it in a safe way,
Hmm.
and that we can actively put that down in a key decision log, and we can make sure that health and safety is okay. Then there are routes. It's about thinking laterally.
Hmm.
And sometimes in the fire service we teach by rote. So we're like, you must do
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5.
yeah.
Where actually you might need to use 1, then 5, then 7, then back to 3. And I'm
Hmm.
really passionate about that, giving firefighters the tools that they can operate professionally with what they know, rather being saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually that's what we need. We need professional firefighters who can make choices, but actually using that dynamic risk assessment and tools around key decision logs,
I
and
think
then being able to get the best possible outcome.
we're in a weird place where we're trying to pull back some of those
Yeah.
sort of handcuffs that were placed on people, because I think we accidentally, under the veil of safety, we have, my words not yours, I think we've created some timid firefighters and some really timid commanders out there, not because they're stupid, not because they're incompetent, because they don't sit within psychological safety sometimes in their organizations, and their fear of judgment, the debrief. We've seen at the very worst end of the spectrum some major incidents where we've seen commanders pulled into courtrooms and filmed. And it's really, the people don't want to be that person. They don't want to be that person. And then, but the worst end of that spectrum, there was something I saw recently, we won't name where it was, but there's a water incident that's going around the social media sphere at the moment, of someone stuck in shin deep
Yeah,
water, arguably in the middle of
I have
water.
seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and bless them. And people say, "Oh," and I'm like, "We did that. We did that to those people, because they're
Yeah.
not stupid firefighters. They're acting with they perceive to be within policy, and they're fearful of having put themselves or their team at risk. But all the public see is common sense would be X, Y, Z, and I'm like, we need to give people more freedom of thought, more confidence in their own risk assessments, dynamic risk assessments on the scene, to do what they feel. And water is a very, very tricky one. Water is something I
Yes,
think we're wrestling with in the UK
we
because
are.
of,
It's
you
not
know,
a statutory requirement.
it's
That's
not a
right.
statutory
Yeah.
requirement. In Wales, I believe they do agree to it as part of a statutory requirement. I'm not sure if you could maybe validate that or not, but I'm pretty confident they do,
Mm.
because a lot of their water teams do stand up as a requirement. Whereas here, whether we're mod 2, mod 3, do we want to put all that investment? Are we going to have time to do annual entry into water? It's very expensive. We're putting people into contaminants. Flowing water is petrifying. Mother Nature is
Yeah.
not very forgiving. And it's one of the most dangerous environments that we live in. But it sits on a spectrum. And what we don't want to create is more instances where the public don't have confidence in us, and we don't have confidence in ourselves to do what we know to be right. Because when you said about using members of the public, we're so willing to do it when it comes to a wildfire. Do you know what I mean? We'll go,
Yeah.
"Hey, has anybody got an earth mover? Can we just utilize your tractor? Can we use your Manitou? Can we do this? Can we dig a fire line? Can we cut this back? Can we cut that back?" But bringing it back to the trauma and the first aid thing, I sit, these are my words, not yours, but I'm like, if you got them in the cold zone, anybody can do compressions. If I'm in this
Absolutely
place,
that.
because
Yes.
anyone that's given CPR for longer than about 4 minutes knows it's remarkably exhausting. And
Yes.
don't ever fear, utilizing members of the public. My words again, not yours, and not everybody else's. This is Pete Wakefield's, whatever. Um, when I sit in the utopia of fire service, I'm like, that is but the thing is, it's not a societal skill. How we used to do a lot of cubs and beavers and guides and all these sort of things, and other great organizations. And I think we should teach that stuff in schools. Like my
I
sister's
absolutely agree.
my
I
sister is
absolutely
a head
agree.
teacher. My missus is a secondary school teacher. My sister works in primary. My missus works in secondary. And there's loads of things I'm sure I would change about the curriculum, as would most of us. And I think teaching is a remarkably difficult profession. And I think we need to transition into preparing people more for society and the economy that we're facing today, not the industrial revolution that happened a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? We want thinking firefighters, we want autonomous thinking members of society, because that will also lift the weight that is placed on our NHS and our fire and rescue services. We're not trying to do ourselves out of the job, but I think it's becoming more difficult to recruit people. I mean, you said you decided to come into the job in your mid to late 20s. Like,
29. Yeah,
yeah, like
29.
putting your finger on the pulse now, given all the cultural challenges we're facing in the UK Fire and Rescue Service, and the fact we're not great at championing each other, as much as you and I have been to some awards recently, which is lovely, and we'll speak about that in a minute.
Yeah.
How do we keep this job? How do we sell it still? Do you know what I mean? Do you, because I feel like, and please push back, I feel like we're struggling more than we used to with recruitment, I think.
Okay. There was so much there, Pete.
Sorry, I told you. I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
So I'm going to start with a couple of things.
Yes.
Bystanders and
Yes.
curriculum and
Yep.
community and society, really important. So I was lucky enough to go to Taiwan in February with Aston University to look at disaster risk reduction and do a comparison. And why I bring that in is their society over there is very different to what the UK is like. So they are very much they have, their environment over there is earthquakes, tsunamis, things like that. So they train at school immediately about go bags, safety zones, all of it, what to do if the horns, the sirens go off. So that means that they're more readily able community, and they move together and they look after each other. Now,
Mhm.
in London, I can only talk about London because I live in London. That's not necessarily what we do. So that would be what we need to start looking at the lessons in Taiwan and saying, okay, how do we implement those lessons so that people are more resilient and more
Mhm.
able to do things for themselves? So the finite resources that we have in terms of rescue responders, either whether they're voluntary or fire sector or whatever sector, um, get utilized for the most in need. So that's the first thing I would say, really importantly.
Mhm.
The second part about education, I am very passionate about education, and I'm going to do something really naughty now, but this is why these have been written.
Yes.
Um, so what I realized is talking to each other is great, and talking to academics is great, but there are all these children going through an education system at the moment, which we have as a fire service embraced and done education teams, and we go out and we do these sort of stuff, but actually we haven't given them the language to progress forward, and we're not giving them all the
Exactly.
safety messages.
Exactly.
So the books are created in order to look at representation. There's no women firefighters in children's books.
Mhm.
There's the Fireman Sam thing, which is
Mhm.
a great thing, but actually we need firefighter to be in the language so that people don't feel left
And
out
just to
and they're
caveat on that, it
included.
was pitched at a time.
Yes, it's
We're
great.
not beating men over the head to
No,
say, "Oh, you should
I think it's
apologize for
great.
existing." It was written for the time.
Yeah.
We're not saying throw it out. We're talking evolution.
Look,
That's all we're talking about.
it's inspired many a firefighter, just like
Yeah,
Bob the Builder
of
has.
course.
We're not,
Yeah.
it's really important to get them young, to give them an idea that this might be for them. So the first
Yes.
book is about fires, but the 9 going forward talk about, because I'm a technical rescue expert. I'm a fellow of the Technical Institute of Search and Technical Rescue, the only woman in the institute as well. I'm a national tactical advisor for USAR, the only woman in the country as well. And I
Wow.
love technical rescue. So the books going forward have some of my incredible friends visiting so that children can have a look at those people and look them up and say, wow, Lindsay, she and her dog
Oh
Davy and
my
all of these
God,
people.
Lindsay.
Yes, she's
Oh my
amazing.
God. We've been booked in
Oh,
like
I'm such a
4 times.
fangirl.
I love Lindsay to
Such a
death. The
fangirl. And
stuff
then
she's done, like
yes,
bringing ISAR up to, not that ISAR was ever
yes,
rubbish, but like the work she's done with dog, and she's had so much
amazing.
national. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to stop. But Lindsay,
Amazing.
oh my God,
No,
Lindsay.
well, she has agreed to be in my collapsed building book, and so she will be at the back, so children can have a look and go, okay,
Yeah.
there's
This is a
Lucy and
real
Blue.
person.
Yeah, this is
It's not
Lindsay and
some
Davy.
mythical hero from the
Exactly.
Greek mythology. This is a real human
Exactly.
being.
Yeah, and then there's a safety message in and around a collapsed building. So we're not just
Yeah.
talking about fire. We're not, and then there's a water rescue one. So there's one in the sea, there's one in the river. What you should do, how you should do, and all of these are going to be
Mm.
linked to charities. So the first one is the Memorial Stair Climb, of which I'm sponsorship lead, which I'm really excited about. We're all going together, so
We'll
that's
talk about that in a minute.
incredible. Um, but the collapsed building one, Lindsay's agreed to be in. Some of the proceeds will go towards the retired working dogs, and then the water ones
Mm.
will go towards the RLNI and the Coast Guard. So there's a link for the children to look at. So not only is it me and whoever my friends are in the book, who are real people that could be looked up, that have done incredible things that I'm so impressed with, and I'm so pleased and proud to have them in my friend circle, but actually there's a charity link to that. So it's doing good and going forward. And it's really I realized a long time ago that the people who I'm talking to aren't the people that need the information. It's the
Yeah.
children. It's the
Yeah.
educators.
Yeah.
It's the pathway. Because actually, you said quite earlier on, you said there's only a finite amount of 10-year-olds. Well, if I can influence some of those 10-year-olds, then
Mhm.
we are going to have some firefighters from all the
You've
diverse
got to get in
backgrounds.
there early, because when they're at that,
Exactly.
they're so malleable, they're so neuroplasticity. And like when they
Yeah.
get up to 16, 17, the concrete starts to set. And unless
Yeah.
you have a big traumatic life experience, you're probably going to have that sort of mental makeup experiencing the rest of your life. So you've
Yeah.
got to get these messages in there so early and make that
Yeah.
part of the concrete before it sets. And I love that you're doing that. I love that you do. I interrupted you. Please, Karen. But
It's
like,
all right.
you're
It's
so right. You're
exciting.
so right. I'm so passionate about it, and
It's just
I hear
me
it every day
too.
with my teachers that I live with. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, it's so right.
It's how and I have a fantastic way of showcasing some of these incredible people in industry. A friend of mine, Chrissy Stiles, the Burns nurse, you might have seen her on
We've had
social
Chrissy on the
media.
podcast.
Yes,
She's
she's
amazing.
brilliant. She's doing great stuff, so she's going to be in my book, and all these
Mhm.
fantastic and it's not just women who'll be in there. I've got some other fantastic people that are
Yeah.
coming in as well, but I just like to highlight those people because,
Mhm.
not only am I lucky enough to call them my friends, I'm proud of what
Mhm.
they've done and everything else, but actually they are incredible humans who do things differently in services where that difference is not necessarily um
We're just
what's the word
screaming
I'm
in an
looking
echo
for?
chamber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
You're pushing
absolutely.
on an
That
open door. We're all just
yeah,
nodding around the room going, yeah, yeah, you're
yeah.
right. Someone should do something about this. But
Someone
how have
should
you
do
had the
something, but not me.
audacity to, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like
but not
everyone
me. I don't
says
wanna be
someone should. And we dissipate responsibility. And then we point at the leadership and go, oh,
"Why
so
aren't
and
you
so needs
doing
to, why is
something?"
the government not doing
Yeah,
it? Why is the National
yeah.
Fire Chiefs Council not doing it? And I'm like, why not you?
Well, you
Why not
don't know
you?
what you don't know as well, and you said earlier on, like, you don't know how it is to be me, and I don't know how it is to be you. I can listen and
Hmm.
try and implement things, but that's
Hmm.
also really important, isn't it? So,
Hmm.
how do you change the future? Go to the future, which is the children, and start there because we are where
Mm.
we are and we can make things a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's the diversification and the dilution going forward that will
Yeah.
make a difference.
Yeah, so often we try and fix for the now. They say the best
Yeah.
time to plant a tree was 5 years ago, but the second best
Yeah.
time is right now.
Now.
So like
Exactly.
plant that tree now. You can't stand there and go, oh God, I wish we'd have done some trees 10 years ago because we
Yeah.
really could do with them now. I'm like, well, I promise you, history doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes. And there will be someone in 10 years time saying, I
We
wish
should
we'd have
have
done
done
this
that.
10 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But take me back. I know it eludes actually one quick pivot. I would
Yeah.
love to get a connection into the RNLI. That we'll just stick a pin in this for a later conversation because that is an element of our rescue community, of our first responder community, we haven't done enough of on the podcast. I really would love to shine a bigger light on them. So maybe we stick a pin in that for later. There wasn't a question here. I would
Yeah,
just
yeah.
love to
No,
speak to you
definitely. I've
about.
got some people.
Yeah, I'd love to get further to that. So take me back to the audacity to going, well, someone needs to do this. Why not me? Because we're always waiting for permission. We're always
Yeah.
waiting for someone else to go. And it's scary to do that. And I know it's a
Yeah.
repeating pattern, and I'm not asking you to repeat yourself, but why have you chosen to be the one that does this? Because again, it could be very lonely to step out there onto the ice.
It is lonely. It is lonely, but I want to do the right thing
Hmm.
and it might not be the right thing for everybody, but it's the right thing for me. So I think what happened was, and I'm happy to share that in February, I sort of went into a place where things weren't going the way I wanted them to go. It was really difficult, and I thought I need to find a positive outlet. I need to find a way of making this positive for a job that I really love, but I'm thinking about leaving. And it would be remiss of me to not mention that, this conversation comes up quite a lot. And actually I got asked a question in an interview most recently saying, what's the most difficult decision you've ever made? And I said, staying in this job every day. And I
Oh,
choose that.
mate.
I choose that. I
I
choose to
feel
stay
like
here.
it's you've got like a niece or a nephew or a child of your own or a dog or whatever, and you love it so much, but it keeps kicking you or
Yes.
keeps biting you. And
Yeah.
you're trying to hug it, and then it
It
keeps
doesn't want
kicking
you.
you. And you're
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't want you.
why are you doing this? Why are you doing
Yeah.
this? Like, we love each other so much. I feel like we could do a lot of great things together. And you keep elbowing me in the face. And
Yeah.
it's hurting. And I'm trying to tell you it's hurting. And you seem to
Yeah.
keep going, meh, get on with it. And I'm like, I will leave, but then we don't leave because we're so romantic about it.
No.
And I flip flop with
Yeah.
this every week, Luce, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And I
I
feel
think
like a
more of us
hypocrite
do than we
sometimes when I come out. And the thing is why I do this. I need to relate to people that are
Yeah,
on the same path, and I'm like, yes, I'm not alone. I love you. Please keep going. Let's high five. See you in 6 months, because
high
you feel
five.
less lonely. Do you know what I mean? But it's tough, isn't it? And I'm
It
sure everyone
is.
is experiencing this somewhere on this scale. Do you know what I mean? At
Absolutely.
times, at times.
I don't think people are being honest if they haven't felt that way at some point in their career. I
Definitely,
think they need to
definitely.
be, I think in order to be self-aware, you need to be, you are constantly questioning those things on a daily
Hmm.
basis anyway. And there's
Hmm.
lots of reasons for that. It may not be you, it may be your family and your setup. But
Hmm.
yeah, I had to find a way of taking the essence of the job, which I love, and doing what I do, which is rescue and technical rescue and fire, and make that accessible in a way that inspires the future. And
Hmm.
that's where they came from. They came from a place of love. They came from a place of, how do I protect a service that I love so much, which I can see has got cracks. We are literally creaking at the seams, and
Hmm.
for all the reasons that you stated: pensions, fitness,
Yeah.
working older, technology, difficulty in fires, mental health, all of
Hmm.
these things, contaminants, cancer. I mean,
Hmm.
goodness me, why would you want your children to go into an environment which
I
is
know.
beyond dangerous for someone that you don't know? And recently we've had lots of firefighter deaths,
Oh,
Hong
mate.
Kong, for
Jesus.
example,
Yeah.
you know, and we're not looking at third world countries where people are having a lot of deaths, where, it would be more not accepted. That's not the right terminology,
But
but
people would write it off
would
and go, "Well, they've got no money.
they
The
haven't got the
economy's in the
kit.
tank." And we're like,
Yeah.
we live in an embarrassment of riches. This should not be happening to the people that live with us in this point in the world. I always say to people, the future's arrived, but it's not evenly distributed. There are places in the world
Yes.
where there's some really horrific things going on,
Yeah.
but you have to shrink that down to your sphere of control and sphere of influence. And we have that sphere of control and influence in the people that we work with every day. So we can't just write it off and go, oh, well, it's the government's problem. Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's
It's
whatever.
not all
I'm
our
like, no,
problem.
no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
it's 100%.
society's problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. You know? And I
yeah.
can't tell you, Pete, like every day, even with this, even in uniform, I still get called a fireman. And, it's not malicious, it's not vindictive, it's a lack
No.
of language. And I think that's
Yeah.
really important. I don't take that from a defensive place. I don't get worried or upset about it. What I want is people to have the right language. It's much the same as you say postman or bin
Hmm.
man. It's just a
Hmm.
change in language.
Hmm.
Sometimes I get it wrong, and I'm the first to say apologize if I do get it wrong. But sometimes you can't find the words. Postman, oh, postie, I'll call them posties.
Hmm.
But actually, when you start looking at that language and what's being taught, it's really important. So
You know what?
in,
Firefighter sounds cooler.
I much prefer it. In America, the Americans
It's
get it
actually
right.
cooler as
The
well.
Americans
Like I
get it
always say
right.
to people, like, how would you want to be described? I'm like, I fight fire for a living. I'm a firefighter. That's a
Yeah.
great name. Like,
But
and that's where the evolution. It's an easy sell, I think.
yeah,
But
it's not us
there
though,
is that
Pete.
generational. We're still
Yeah,
moving through the generational
yeah,
transition. And also, I
yeah.
always say to people, as part of the podcast, I was like, the limits of your language are the limits of your world. If you can't find a different
Oh,
way
I
to
like
communicate
that.
with different people, your world will shrink tremendously. You're scared of talking to so and so. You're scared of engaging with the team. You're scared of reaching out to this person because you don't have the language. Because you don't have the
Absolutely.
language, and that's not your fault. Is the way you were raised, the way you're schooling, and that's not to say that, like, to be condescending. It's just to say that that is the limits of your world, but it's 1,000% in your sphere of control. Like, you can change
Yeah.
that. You really can.
Well, I
It
think
takes a lot of humility. It
yes,
takes a
and
lot
that's the point.
of
And curiosity and getting it
curiosity.
wrong,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get it right
Failing
all the
safely.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that goes back to your psychological safety and the buzzword that is around all services at the moment and across
Hmm.
the nation. But I
Hmm.
think saying psychological safety and providing psychological safety is very, very different. We work in an environment
Hmm.
where a mistake can cost someone's life. So
Hmm.
it's very different. It's
Hmm.
hard. So training is where those mistakes need to be made and captured, and
Hmm.
that's where it needs to be psychologically safe.
Mm.
um
Thousand
it's a
percent.
big circle, and actually they always said that saying curiosity killed the cat. No, curiosity is what drives meaningful change, and meaningful
Mhm.
change is what we need, not change for the sake of change.
Yeah, yeah. Change for the we're struggling with change fatigue very much in the UK
Yes.
Fire and Rescue Service, but I think it's because we look at it in the micro. we see 1,000 small changes that sometimes we struggle to contextualize the why behind them. So we write
Mhm.
them off as change for the change sake. But I think a lot of that also comes with communication and transparency. Like if we get more, we do this more. If we talk about things more and we're more transparent, and
Mm.
the top of the organization down to the bottom, we have a much more open and inclusive language that we use when we're communicating these changes, then people will understand the why behind it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's Simon Sinek's, isn't it? You know, start with why. You know,
Yes.
people don't really
It's a
want
great
to know
book.
if they don't understand the why, the how and the what will just be a stillbirth. Do you know what I mean? They won't really
Yeah.
understand it because you've not contextualized the why behind it. You'll have had loads of meetings about this that you see in leadership table, but because
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to be recorded and because we were scared somebody might get
Yeah.
sacked, we didn't put it out there. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, then you just punted something out 9 months later and go, by the way, we've changed this now. And they're like,
Mm.
well, no one's
How did
told
that
us. No
happen?
one included me. I
Yeah.
didn't feel heard. No one asked my opinion. Do you know what I mean? And
So
then we
then
just
it's
go,
just a
okay,
closed door.
yeah,
Yeah.
closed door. And
Absolutely
that
right.
just perpetuates this almost sort of distrust, this skepticism, this, oh, what's going on behind closed doors. Most of the senior leaders that I've spoken to, not all, but most, really lovely people. Really, really lovely people. They're trying to do what they can with the limited resources, and
Yeah.
pretty much every day they have to make a remarkably difficult, unpopular decision
Yeah.
because that's their job. They're
Yeah.
all good ideas, but they can't say yes to all of them. So you're probably, a lot of you might get a no, not because it was a rubbish idea or anything like that. And how we deliver that, usually I would say to people, it's a not right now rather than a no. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
we had a utopian budget and endless time and resources, of course it's a yes. You know, we just went through the UK Pink Firefighter selection and we had 27 Avengers effectively that made it through to the final one. And we could only say yes right now to 5 of them because we only get 5 kits from MSA. That's the way it works. So this year we get 5 kits.
Yeah.
We would love to have these incredible people running around screaming from the rooftops, raising a great deal of money for the biggest cause of cancer, certainly in women in the UK. But we don't have that right now. But you have to be able to take those setbacks because people, we said earlier about setbacks being character revealing. People will watch how you succeed, but they also watch how you fail.
They do.
Yeah. And if you get the no in your organization, or you failed to join recruitment, or you didn't get the promotion, a lot of
How do you get
people,
back up?
yeah, sometimes they will revert to, becoming belligerent, detaching themselves from the
Yes.
organization. And I'm like, you need, I'm glad I didn't give you the job because you just showed me who you were. Do you know what I mean? If you just have green lights all the way, I think the beautiful irony of your story is it's a series of falling forwards and getting back up, falling forwards and getting back up, and
Yeah.
trying
That's
to do
lovely.
something that may have been just outside of your reach and still going for it. And I think that's what gives you a remarkable amount of authenticity. And the reason, and I will bring it in here, we were just at an award ceremony together. Most influential, the award that you. So where were we recently? And I know you won't love
We're
to
at the
say it, but
Fire
what
Excellence
were you
Awards and
recognised for?
most influential woman in fire, which you
That's gonna
filmed
feel
me getting
weird.
up. Yeah, it was weird.
Because you didn't even, you were like sat at your table, you were not ready to get up. You were kind of like, oh God, like, I can't believe I've been shortlisted, looking at the incredible people on that list.
Hmm.
And then they were
Yeah.
like, Lucy Macleod, and you're like, oh
Oh.
God. God. That's
Yeah.
surreal and weird.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it in because I knew you weren't going
Thank
to.
you.
Um, like that's massive. But I also feel like you're you're still remarkably young by comparison to a lot of the other people on that list, with respect. Like sometimes you see people getting given that at the end of their careers. Um, you're still just like changing through the gears. So that must have been a strange moment for you.
It was. And, I was just grateful to be shortlisted, to be honest. I was absolutely enjoying the event and seeing some of my friends and obviously you winning your award as
Yeah.
well. And I was really happy to be there. And when that got called out, I was like, oh, yeah, and absolutely shocked. So
Yeah.
I was hoping that the wellbeing dogs would win because I put them forward for a couple of
Mhm.
awards, but they didn't. So yeah, I was like, okay. It means it means a huge amount actually,
Mhm.
because it's not just, as you said earlier, I'm multifaceted. I've got things
Yeah.
going on all over the place, and actually that's sort of been recognised, and that does help me help the fire service move things forward because
Mm.
in a weird kind of way. Yes, but I am very embarrassed about talking about it. So I probably think we just stop it there, Pete.
No, okay. Well, I'll go in a slightly different direction and say that when we interpret that word, we hear the word influencers, we think of social media. But
Mm,
I always say to people, we're all influencers. You probably just don't even realize it.
absolutely.
You're having an influence on everybody, how you show up every day. Do you want to be the reason someone wants to come to work or doesn't want to come to work? And I'm not saying they're just
Yes.
coming to work for you,
Yeah,
but we all leave fingerprints, don't we? We leave fingerprints
absolutely.
on everybody that we interact with. And if you really are conscious and present in the people that you're engaging with, it will be a net negative or net positive interaction. That's why I think, whilst all the awards deserve recognition and are incredible, that term of influence is like the charitable work that we're doing with 9/11 Stair Climb as an
Yeah.
example at the minute. There's no rank or structure in that. It is just us all trying to positively influence each other, and progressively the rising tide raises all of those ships. And really, anybody can do that. Sometimes we do associate it with rank. Yes, a decision that so and so in the chief fire officer position or whatever potentially has a bigger influence, but everybody does have an influence. Everybody can do that. They don't have to wait for the promotion. They don't have to wait to get an award to wave at people. Anybody can do that. So if we try to shrink that down into people's sphere of control, like, it's hard to do it from where it might be harder to do it from where you are because you've achieved so much. But everyone had a day one. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
absolutely.
how do you speak to people now about the influence that they can have in the things that they say are important and that they're trying to move forwards?
Okay, so I have a little phrase that I use and I call it the butterfly effect. And I say,
Okay.
look, and it's exactly what you're talking about. If I show someone a different way of behaving, managing, dealing with a problem, then they've got that in their toolbox and then they can go and do it. And I can maybe influence 5 people, let's say, but they can then all go and influence 5 more people each. So that's 25 people. And
Mm,
then everybody, it sort of spreads that love around with their own dilution on it. So I think it's just really important that, you know, everyone can do what I've done. They
mhm,
just need to want to do it. That's the
mhm.
main thing. Don't think that you can't. It's those
Mhm,
limiting beliefs, isn't it?
mhm.
You
Yeah.
can go and do those, but you have to go through the difficult times. It's not all sunshine and roses. It's
No.
actually really quite difficult.
Yeah.
And that comes at the end of, difficult periods and rolling, like you said, or putting the ball in the water and waiting for it to pop up. That does
Mhm.
happen. And then suddenly it all
Yeah.
comes in a big thing. And people think you're lucky. I make my own luck. We
1,000%.
all make
Yeah.
our own luck. Every
Yeah.
interaction that we have, a good network,
Yeah.
getting out there, doing difficult things, pushing
Mhm.
yourself. That's how these things happen. I haven't been given a silver spoon. I'm
No.
not got, like sometimes people are, there's nepotism and all of that.
Mhm.
It is out
People
there. I
don't see
agree.
the no's. They don't see
No,
how
they
many no's
don't.
you get. People, oh, you get
Absolutely.
so many yeses. And it's like, it's at least a 20-to-1 ratio.
Easily.
Someone says no to me. I say it to my daughter where I'm like, shy kids don't get sweets. Okay. So go and
Yeah.
ask.
Ask the
Excuse,
question.
can I have a go? Can I go
Yeah,
next? Is there a spare space? Can I like jump in on
exactly.
that? Can I have one? What if, I always say to her when she asked me this morning, she said, can I have two friends to sleep? Because it's her last day at school. People won't know we're recording
Oh,
towards the end of summer.
yeah.
Can I have two friends to sleep? She knows because of past experiences, little girls sometimes are not very nice to each other. And if you get three of
Oh,
them, sometimes one gets left out. So I always say, ask a better question. Because she can have
yeah.
two,
Okay.
she knows she can't have two friends to sleep at once. But I said, you're with me
Have
all
one.
weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ask a better question. You can have one friend to sleep. And she says, okay, so can I have one friend to sleep tonight, one friend to sleep tomorrow? Yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's
Because if you
nice.
only say, Daddy, can I have two friends to sleep? You know that's not a possibility. And you could walk straight away and go, I asked Daddy for this, and he said no. I'm like, ask me a better question, baby, because there's a yes here somewhere. So let's, and I'm not trying, people think I speak to my daughter like a manager. I'm not, but I try and give her the
No,
language
you're giving
that
her
she
the
can use
language.
other
Yeah.
places. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's a great book ages ago called Getting to Yes. And I'm like,
Mm.
there's a yes here somewhere. Let's find the yes. And I don't just want to dictate the yes to you. I want you to find it. And I want you to put that little bit of mental energy into, same when she asked for pocket money. When she says, can I have £2, Daddy? I'm like, ask me about a question. Daddy, what can I do to earn
For
£2?
£2. Exactly.
Perfect. Because these
Yeah.
27 little jobs I need doing around the house. Not 27, but she'd do whatever. Hoover the
Yeah.
floor, wipe the windows,
Wash the
£2, bang,
car,
off you
whatever.
go.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
don't walk around life with the gimme, gimme, gimme. walk around life going, how can I add value to you? And in return, what could do this? And that's the value of reciprocity. People want to do things for people that want to help them. So if you lead with help, don't do it maliciously, give and forget, receive and remember. I always say to people, but start with the giving. And most people will probably reciprocate that unexpectedly at some point in the future. But if you focus on the bit in your control, which is the give, then just keep giving. And whether you want to call it, mantra, whether you want to call it, the universe giving back to you, whatever you want to call it, there is a lot of good people out there. I never say people aren't coming to work trying to play one-to-one defense on the UK Fire and Rescue Service. They're not coming. We're pretty good at selection these days. Yes, we get a bad apple every now and again, but most of the people that come to work are there to do a great job. And if you can reframe the problem, if you can reframe the ask, then that people don't join for the income. They join because they're probably a type of
No,
person that wants to help people. So just reframe
absolutely
the
that.
question and you'll probably get a better
Absolutely that.
response.
And they don't come to work to be a bad person. They just
No,
come to work and
no,
they try and do the best they can. They fill the vacuum that's not there. They try and do the right thing, and
absolutely.
sometimes that's the wrong thing. It is what it is. We are all people.
I want to be uber respectful of your time because we've been talking for nearly an hour and a half, 2 hours now. 9/11 stair climb. That we've had lots of little interactions over a couple of years of knowing each other, but we're lucky enough to both have fumbled our way into a team that's trying to do something
Yes,
great
with
and a
Scott.
once in a lifetime adventure this next year. We have spoken about it on the podcast before, but we failed to include that you're now a part of this and you're putting a lot of value into the team. Tell us why you wanted to be part of it, and then sort of tell us the goals that we're trying to head in towards for next year.
Okay, so you and Scott approached me, me and Blue, and
Hmm.
just like he is the little buffer that he is,
Yeah,
that started the conversation. And next thing you know, here I am, sponsorship lead, which I'm really happy about. I've
it's a
done,
tough one. It is a
yes,
tough reference to have.
yes.
So it needed a person of your thinking and your problem solving skill set to go and ask those scary questions.
Well, I'm grateful for your credit that you're giving me
Yeah,
there. The proof will be in the pudding. Let's see.
it's tough.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 343 firefighters going to Atlanta are incredible, and the
Hmm.
July climb,
Hmm.
and potentially we're looking at doing something in Fulham in January and
Hmm.
February.
Hmm.
So. And we're linking in with the University of East London there with some data collection, which is even better because that gives us a rounded
Exactly.
view and
Yeah.
across
But
across the
again, it comes
globe.
back to that ask. We're trying to do this. How would it help you with what you're doing? And can we work together? Do you know what I mean? If you just walk
Yeah,
around asking for
absolutely that.
stuff, it's like people will struggle to say yes. But if you go, we're doing this, can that be of value to you? And can we work together?
100%. So
Yeah.
already linking all those connections together, getting all
Hmm.
the, industry excited. And that's
Hmm.
really important because industry often gets left out. So they're providing all of this stuff, much like
Hmm.
academia. They're
Hmm.
saying, oh, well, this is the right thing. We think this is the right thing for you. Do you
Hmm.
want it? And then they go through a tendering process. Whereas if they
Hmm.
are involved with us in 343 firefighters, then they can do things better for us. And then that on the
This
front
is this is a
line,
bridge. This
this
is,
is, yeah,
for
it's like the,
organizations that have wanted to
yeah,
plug into the fire service before, and they're like, oh, but it's an organization and the tender process, and I can't be seen to be doing anything with them because there's laws and legislation around that.
absolutely that.
We've got 343 firefighters, which is the operational size of some services across the UK Fire and
Yes,
Rescue Service. It's a lot of people, and you've got the diversity of
absolutely that.
40 plus organizations that have got
Yeah.
different members within it. This is a really unique
Ages.
opportunity. So I would just say on that one, if people are hearing this and they're seeing the posts and
Please
all the
get in
three,
contact.
this is the route. You're walking around this really shiny thing looking for a plug. Here is the plug that you can plug into, and we're going to drop an email address underneath this. If people, organizations, academia, businesses, whatever, want to reach out to be part of this, because it's going to be a heck of an
Massive.
eyesore. Like this is going to be the single biggest, I think, body of firefighters head in on an international thing from the UK, maybe ever. I mean, UK ISO, I've done some big deployments, but this I think
Not
is a
that
once
big.
in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible thing for people to be able to get involved with. And there's so much happening behind the scenes that really need incredible people, resources, research to support this tremendously heavy lift that we're trying to do. And we're not going to do it again. I promise you.
I don't know. I don't know.
someone,
I think we're going to
someone else
create a
can
legacy,
lead.
Pete,
So, well, yeah, someone
with
else
Scott.
can step up and go, that was really impressive. How can I help
Yeah.
next time? So if people want to get involved on the next one or even this one, then they can do. But it's being the horsepower for it is being paid by a lot of personal cost at the minute. And I'm not saying
It
anybody's
is.
struggling, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of resource, and nobody gets paid for it. We'll just put that out there. None of us are getting a backhanded anything. No money is being exchanged. It's just it's just one of those
It's
silly things
just
that we say yes to, and
Pete,
then it's just
it's
like,
doing it for the
Jesus Christ.
greater good. That's what it is. This is
Oh
all about the
no.
greater
Oh
good.
no,
This is
my
what we
God.
do. We connect the dots.
Uh,
We
I
make
can
things
only use that excuse
accessible.
so many times when I'm talking to my missus, though. Uh,
Well, I can't help you with that,
she's a remarkably
unfortunately,
patient woman, bless her.
other than bring her with us. Let's use her skills. I'm sure she's got some incredible skills that
She's
we
got
can
some
use.
great
I need to
skills.
meet
She's
her.
coming on. I
I need to
know.
be like,
We'll
okay,
hook it
so
up.
let's see if we can, you know, so you can be involved.
She
And
is.
that's the
She's
thing,
great.
bringing people along, involving people, getting that the best out of
Mm,
people, and actually co-producing
yeah.
co-producing things. And people, and you talked about why earlier, co-producing and asking and moving forward in one direction as a whole, rather
Mm.
than the world according by Lucy or the world according to Pete.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's all
1,000%.
about that
Mhm.
cohesive, collaborative piece moving forward
It
in
will
the right
take all of
direction.
us to
Yeah,
solve the challenges we're
absolutely.
facing.
So
There's not going to
there's
be any one expert that fixes this stuff, guys. So
no,
we've got to be in it
there's no
together.
no silver bullet. The other thing I would say on that, there's a saying, and I might say it wrong, so you might have to correct me or come
Mhm.
up with it yourself. Is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Mhm.
And I think I might have got that slightly wrong, but
No,
it's
no.
really
So I
important.
always say you can go faster alone and further together.
Yes.
Because I said it at the British Firefighter Challenge closing
Oh,
announcement last year, because behind every person, behind every athlete, behind every operational fire and rescue service and police and everything, there is a infrastructure.
team.
There is a support network. The
Absolutely.
whole family, the whole social infrastructure joins the emergency services when somebody comes into this thing. We really,
100%.
and you can't do it alone. You can't,
No.
folks. None of us can. It's an the podcast is a lovely little illusion. P Way Fun ain't doing all this. We've got Olivia and Sarah and Carl and everybody
I
else.
love Olivia.
Lucy's not achieving everything she achieves. She's got
No,
friends, family, colleagues.
absolutely.
No
Walking
one
blue
is
when
an
I'm not
island.
here,
There
you
you
know?
go.
Absolutely. And
But
that's
yeah.
really important.
It
Really
takes all of us,
important.
doesn't it? Look, I want
Yeah.
to be respectful of our time together.
Yes, thank
We've
you.
missed 1,000 things, but we'll have another chat and we'll have another catch up
Do
in
you want
6 months, 8 months, or whenever it might be.
Yeah,
But
there'll be
we'll
more
see each other
then.
again soon. There's lots of stuff
Yeah.
coming up in the new year. But please send my love to Blue. Send my
Thank you,
love
Pete.
to all of your colleagues. Send my love to all of your friends. I appreciate you. You make me a
And
better person.
you.
You're one of those people that I have around me that brings the best out in me
Oh,
and calls me to
thank you.
action. So I really appreciate you, and I really
That's
look forward to catching up again soon.
that's very kind. You too.